And welcome to the February 12th, 2024 meeting of the City of Shoreacres City Council. Ms. Goodman, will you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mayor,
Present.
Lieutenant Mayor McCollum,
Present.
Alderwoman Ramos. Present. Alderman Greason,
Present.
Alderman Hoskins,
Present.
and Alderman West.
Present. Hold on. If you join me in the pledges, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you guys for being here. I'm a little under the weather, so I might be a little slow tonight. We'll get through it. Special presentation 3.1 to council reports and requests. Item 4.1, an opportunity for members of council to share community news. Anything coming up, Wes?
Have nothing, dude.
Mr. Hoskins?
Nothing.
Ms. Ramos?
Nothing.
Mr. Greason?
Nothing.
Mayor Pro Tem McCollum? No, sir. All right, moving on. Item 5.0, public hearing and public comments. This is the opportunity for the public to address council. This time is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Comments are to be directed to city council, and dialogue with the audience is not permitted. Council members are prohibited by law from participating in discussion or deliberation of items not specifically identified on the agenda. So this is your only opportunity to talk tonight, so take advantage of it. After this, there will be a presentation by Mr. Plant, but you will not be allowed to there's no interaction there in that. So if you have something to say it during this point. Okay, George. Yes, ma'am. Do you have anything?
The clarification, this is just in general public comments, or is this specifically about the Miramar?
This is item 5.1. You can say anything about anything you want. The council can't discuss it with you unless it's on the agenda. You will not be allowed to talk during 5.2. So if you want to address that, you'll have to do it now.
Okay, no, I'm good.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm interested to hear about the Miramar Park.
If you want to say something, you have to stand at the lectern, state your name and address for the record, and
All right, I'll make a quick statement.
name and address for the record.
My name is Gary Manuel. My address is going to be 3502 Miramar.
Yep.
My concern is we're creating a parking lot on Miramar for anybody to use. We're inviting people from anywhere. I think it should be, if it's, I'm not objecting to having it, but it should be for the people in Shoreacres. I mean, there's no point in inviting people, I don't think. There's a lot of other things that need to be taken care of, like the roads. I mean, I understand all that. I'm a builder, so I know how that works. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Durrani?
David Durrani, 3316 Miramar. And I guess segueing on that, in looking at this Miramar parking situation, my concern is we don't, at least I have not seen a plan to, or a study even that we're using this for the citizens of Shoreacres. I understand that the park is a public park and you cannot hold people from using it. My concern is in providing for this additional parking at that location is that we do invite people from other communities that we really don't want to have come in. I'm not saying that people from LaPorte just cannot come, but why are we inviting additional people. My feeling is we're not going to do this and it's just going to be Shoreacre citizens using the park, using the parking spot at Shell Beach. With situations as they are with crime, all of the things that we have been able to slip past in this community, it seems like an invitation to bring more of it. We have, at this point, people parking on Miramar, not associated with that. And one of the discussions I saw said that that would maybe address some of the people parking on Miramar, that they would go down there to fish, not at Shell Beach because it's not allowed at the beach, but nearby the beach. That didn't seem to stop anybody because they're still up and down Miramar parking, throwing trash down. There's not really any enforcement of trying to keep that parking clean all up and down Miramar. And then we're going to invite additional people in that, like I say, they don't bring anything to the community other than the citizens. A very limited parking. You took the parking away from the yacht club side and we expanded it. Now we've got kind of a muddy mess ditch. I assume that's going to be dealt with, and the drainage that was paid for by community block grants to establish new drainage in there for storm drainage. It's bad. And I just don't see where the net gain is to the community in putting something like that. And then my concern is when does it come down to the north end or up to the north end? And where do we stop with this thing? Are we going to add more, or is it just because of Shell Beach? What's the real reasoning behind this is my concern. And my real concern is crime and bringing people past everybody's houses to go use those parking spots to go do whatever it is. And I don't feel personally that it's going to be Shoreacre citizens that really get the main benefit of it. It's also, as I look at it, it is a net loss to homeowners where this is at insofar as value. It is not a net gain property values to have a parking lot established across the street from two brand new houses. And again, this concerns me because it could go down on the north end. Where was the rationale to even do this? And so, again, I come back, where's the net gain to the community at large to put in 10 or 15 parking spaces in one location that I don't think a lot of the community even knows exist. That's my piece.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
Hello again, everyone. Robert Johnson, 3618 Miramar. Pictures again, just things going on down there. There's like a couple sets of what's happening lately. And I agree with everything you just said, David. That was very well said. I'm one of those lots right in front of the parking. So yeah, I have a lot of concern about that. But pictures 1 and 2, it's just cars parking on the streets instead of the new parking area. I mean, I know this was even sometimes before the rain, but it makes it really hard for us to back out of our driveway. And before the parking lot, the police were always good about moving the people off Miramar Drive across the street from us. I mean, I watched it happen all the time. I thought that was great. Picture 3, it's a car that was just parked in the dark for about an hour right in front of our house. And, you know, we have lights on inside our house. And going back to what you just said about crime, I don't know if he's looking in my house going, what do they got in there? All that stuff. So I know that it's from dusk till dawn, but I think that's the beach from what I understand. So people are still parking there in the evenings and at night. And it's just kind of concerning to me in the morning. Picture 4 is his truck parking the wrong direction. Kind of thought it's funny. And he went out fishing, even with the new no fishing signs. He was out there fishing and having a good old time. Not a big deal, but parking the wrong direction. Picture 5 was one I was out there on my porch and the guy left. He peeled out in the mud or the grass right there. And then when he hit the street, it just burned rubber everywhere. I think you smell rubber right out front of my house. And I don't think any one of you would want that in front of your house, but that's kind of what's going on these days. And then picture number 6, that's what we just been talking about is they came and dumped a bunch of dirt out there and, you know, it's just become a big swimming pool out there. And before we built our house, my wife and I, we'd come down and we'd have a picnic on our lot. We'd just sit back and enjoy it. We always were impressed with the way the police would pull up and, you know, someone parked on the wrong side of Miramar, they would ask them to leave politely. They'd leave. It was all great. We thought it was fantastic. I'd say, man, this is gonna be great. We'll never have to worry about people parking and blocking our view or anything. And all this changed once we moved in. All of a sudden, we get a parking lot right across the street from us. And I know George isn't here tonight. He's, you know, I'm sure y'all have all heard from George too, but just concerned about it. And my main thing is I'm asking, why not return the bollards back to their original positions and force a no parking on the side of Miramar as it's always been? And then open up the 3 lots that are high and dry right now and put time and money into there along Baywood. You could probably fit 6 more cars along there if it wasn't flooding all. And that's like the end of my statements right there. There's George right there. Thank you.
Thank you. George,
Sorry to come in late.
we're talking about anything you want to talk about right now.
Oh,
So
I was gonna mention the definition of Miramar.
name and address for the record.
George Purdue, 3622 Miramar. I would like to everybody to Google one of these days, definition of Miramar. And it is a view of the sea, which is kind of a cool name. I grew up always wanting to live on Miramar. And today I have spent a good part of my monies, I probably shouldn't have, to build a house on Miramar. But I think that there's some discussion that still can be made on maybe making the parking lot just a little bit smaller. So we'll have a view of the sea, not just from a car, but from a home, and protect people's property values. And at the same time, have a beautiful city. There's some things that I think we can do rather than putting a crushed concrete parking lot in the parking lot, is possibly making the parking lot a little smaller at first and putting blacktop on it if we need a, and I'll be glad to fall on the sword and let it just be in front of my house. And the idea is if you put the crushed concrete in there, you're going to get a lot of dust and dirt and wind when it blows from the north. If you put McAdoo, same problem. And of course, I think we were just talking about the water and mud issue. And it's not the Miramar, the view of the sea if you block it with a bunch of cars. That's just my definition today. But do Google it. It's kind of fun, kind of neat to look at. You never know what's in a name. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Okay, Mr. Hamilton?
No, I'm good.
Barry? Barry, you want to talk about anything other than your item?
No.
All right. All right. Moving on, item 5.2, a citizen requested action. Mr. Barry Plant has requested to talk about Miramar Park South parking. Mr. Plant?
Did you get those photographs?
There it is. Yeah, they are there.
Okay. I'm Barry Plant, 3522 Miramar. I live about 300 yards north of this parking lot. And back in the fall, my wife, who picks up trash down there a lot every day, she takes the dog, she picks up a bunch of trash. She says, "What are they doing down there?" And I said, "No idea what they're doing down there." I said, "I don't remember seeing it on the city budget." And I'm curious. So I wandered down there a few days later and I ran into a couple of these guys and I go, "They're putting in a parking lot or something." I go, interesting. So I have the city budget, by the way, that was approved. You're looking at it right here. Looking at all the items, line item by line item, I see some $600 costs. Actually, by the way, a $32,000 line item for $36,000 for weed control this year. Thank you very much for mosquito control. Thanks for that. That's going to be really helpful. Probably about a year late, right? But I don't see anything in this budget about construction or parking lot. So I'm kind of wondering where all this money to do that is coming from. So I'm taking a bigger approach picture. All these guys had some pretty good pictures. I'm just taking it up a notch thinking, okay, if this is an approved city budget, and we go down to line items for mailings, $150 and this and that, and yet there's a lot of unfinished business. So this is what we're talking about. You can just skate through these. Everybody in this room probably has seen this. Doesn't look too good these days, but it's been around like that for quite a long period of time. Those are the bollards that were put in place to prevent people from parking that used to park down there. So here's my questions. This is, I guess, from my perspective, since I didn't know anything about what was going on, I just wonder if this is moving toward my place, because I sure wouldn't want this in front of my house. But so where is the expenses associated with this? And there's obviously a lot more expenses to finish this parking lot. And I'm sure as a builder, you understand this is not a cheap fix because there's a big drainage issue that has to be fixed. So that's the first question. Where is it in the approved budget? I have it here. Who authorized it and how did it get authorized? And then what's the scope of this? Where does it end? Is it just the parking lot? Is there restroom facilities that are going to be installed? Because see those trees in the back? I think that's your only restroom facility that you have. And I'm sure George and Robert can probably attest to those. I don't know if you plan on putting in restroom facilities.
No.
And then the other question, really the last is what's the real benefit, to the community? And I think those four coupled together, that's the type of discussion that I want to have. And my wife did tell me as I walked out the door, she says, you might want to also tell them to figure out somebody other than herself who's going to clean up the trash that's down there, because that's not really being done. She does it because she wants to do it. I don't know when she's going to stop, but she did tell me to put that on as an additional expense too. So that's where that's where I'm at. I don't have the real dog in the hunt like these guys do. I'm just an observer and just somebody that's fiscally concerned, because there's a whole lot of things to do around this city. A lot that need to be fixed. I used to run budgets for big facilities, and this doesn't have much money in it, man. I am just astonished at how little money the city has. I'm flabbergasted at what you guys run a shoestring budget. That might be my 5 minutes. So I'm done talking.
Got one left.
I don't know that I can add a whole lot more. I'd like to have answers. I just don't want to be the one here talking. So you guys can take the time and see if you can answer some of this questions. Possible? Let's start with the questions in order. How about, where's the budget for this?
They want to discuss?
We need a motion to discuss.
No, you can answer his question if you want to. We're not, this is just informal. It's on the agenda, so you can answer it if you choose, but you don't have to.
Well, I think as far as the budget goes, Mr. Harrison, can you shed some light on where the money is used to, and I guess we need to go back and talk about what the reason behind putting this parking lot there in the first place.
I'd like to make one point real quick. I appreciate your input, but last year for National Night Out, I rented a jump house for the kids. There's not a jump house on there for the kids. It comes out of another budget. It's the same way with the park stuff. We initially began because we had a situation where we were getting a lot of reports about things that they felt like was dangerous. People unloading kayaks out of trucks in the road because there was such a limited space there. When Mr. Perdue built his house, he and I had many conversations about people parking in his yard. People parking on his side of the road. Wasn't really his yard, but it was definitely connected.
Have any discussion on that?
No. We talked because he placed some items out near the road that we had to have him move. So in order to alleviate the people parking on his side of the road, I simply tried to move people to the other side of the road so that they wouldn't be up against their yard. Ever since I've been here for 12 years, you weren't allowed to park on that side of the street. And I think that's a good rule. But in this particular case, I felt like being as it's on the curve, can't see around the curve, and people were unloading boats and kayaks, into a moving lane of traffic that we needed a place to get those people off the road. That's why it's so deep. It's not deep for double parking. It's deep so that people can pull a pickup up and unload a yacht without, or not a yacht, but a kayak, I guess, and not be in the roadway. So that was the beginning. That's how it started, Mr. Greasy.
And then as I understand it, the second part of that is, as you know, the lease that we have with the SRA limits anybody parking down there.
Yes.
At the same time, we've got an area that is open to the public, really. In other words, that's really and truly, we can't block it off completely. So we have to we have to keep people from parking in people's yards. We can't use the SRA park. They can't. So that's one alternative that was thought of, was to put some parking down there. And regardless of whether we do or don't have parking there, we're going to have people coming in from other places. So you can't stop them.
Why?
So
It's a public beach.
I mean, I can't talk.
They won't let me talk.
How are we gonna discuss?
So, okay, so you answered the question. There isn't an approved budget for it. It's a discretionary fund somewhere in the slush fund. You got, so I got that. Now, how authorized is that? Just something he makes an assessment that, hey, we got a safety issue here and we're gonna go ahead and put a parking lot in. Is that how that process works?
We felt like there was a big safety issue
Oh, really?
and a place where we had to find some place to put people that come in. In other words, we can't put them at the SRA parking area. Some of them used to park down there before we had signs and everything keeping them out, but that kept them out of people's yards for a long time. But once we completely blocked that off and leased that out to the SRA, then the next place for them to park is.
And that's 10 minutes. We'll go for another minute or so.
Well, I'm not the one talking.
We'll go for another minute or so.
Okay. And then, so was this authorized? It wasn't authorized at the council. Doesn't sound like you guys had much of it in the discussion.
Very much authorized. Mr. Harrison runs the city manager runs the city.
And scope of the project, when is it, where is it end? Just put, throw a bunch of dirt down there and then put some pressure fines on there and make it look good? Is that what it is?
We are creating a park.
So some of that is on me, absolutely. We had some freezing weather, we had some rainy weather, and then I was out of town for a week. I was hoping we could be further along, but we're not, but we're starting to work on it again. We started last week, trying to level it out, trying to get a drainage plan, and we'll move forward this week and next week.
Well, I think you've answered my questions. I'm not happy with the answers, of course, but I would like to think that we'd have other opportunities to spend money on other things than that.
Thank you very
I
much.
put that because there's some money involved with this one.
Thank you. Moving on.
Mayor, I still know that there's a problem with me answering, but when my name's mentioned, I should be able to rebut.
Okay, George, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 30 seconds.
30 seconds to rebut.
Listen, wait, stand up, state your name.
I will come up. The 30 seconds. Sorry if I confused you anyway. I was putting down brand new grass this summer, trying to get it down before between rainy seasons, and just moving in a new house with a bunch of dogs in the yard, animals. I did make some pylons just to put out there so they wouldn't look as ugly as a bunch of sticks out there, but I never mentioned that I didn't want anybody parking in front of my house, because it's impossible to park in front of my house. There's a drainage ditch that goes down very deep in my front yard, if you know, and it would be very dangerous for a person to try to park in my front of my house.
Okay,
So I know I didn't ever tell you I couldn't park in front of my house.
thank you
Okay,
for clarifying. Thank you for clarifying.
I mentioned that. I pulled all the pylons back.
Moving on, item 6.0 administrative reports. Item 6.1 city manager's report. Mr. Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor. Start with the financials tonight. Read you off what is on the boards, just so we've got it on the record. Restricted debt, $32,461.32. Unused wastewater project funds, $50,379.24. Utility deposit fund, $93,308.37. The road repair taxes that's held in tax pool, $319,278.75. The COVID grant funds are expended. We have no more COVID grant funds. Pavilion improvements. Remains $29,873.14. Set funds $5,627.82 for a total in the restricted funds of $522,366.37. In the unencumbered funds, in our general fund checking account, as of the last day of January, we had $371,997.06. Utility checking stood at $202,479.27. The unencumbered funds that's held in tax pool, which is our savings, $1,012,038.90. And the total, $1,595,077.50.
Mr. Hoskins, that 1012 does not include an extra 17,000 in interest. I know that's your passion, so we are still above $1 million in that, which is awesome.
I like that. That's good news.
And municipal court, Mr. Harrison, the revenue.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen it for yourself. It's a report that continues to, it's been growing. You remember last year, we struggled just a little bit with coming out of COVID, having meetings, having court because of the repairs on this building, the remodels on this building. But I think we're playing catch up now. So you'll see that the total revenue for the month of January, or it's through the 1st of February, is a little over $69,000. And our expenses were $35,358.75. So municipal court is starting to work for us again. It's starting to be where we need it to be.
Yeah, and this is really a combination of things. We have a new court clerk, of course, and we're able to undo a backlog, as Mr. Harrison just talked about. We also have a full staff of officers, and so while ticket writing isn't up per se, it's at a normal level. We're not here to give out tickets. Most of the time they give out warning because they even pull people over. So that's not our goal here. But our goal is to break even a municipal court. And that little, right now we're showing a quote profit, but it's not a profit. It'll come down to, and by the end of the year, it'll be about a break even point. That's where our goal is. And it's not to bring in revenue for a revenue source. It's just to keep the city safe and keep everybody honest. So thank you, Mr. Harrison. Council, do you have any questions about the financial? You also have the P&L in front of you if you want to look through the line items. So you can see where we are. Mr. Bell.
Go ahead.
Mr. Bell.
Oh, no, I had anything to say. Okay, you had nothing.
Mr. Hoskins.
Yeah, just a quick question. Do we have an idea of the projected percentage of taxes collected so far? What's this? An estimate?
Yes, we looked at that Thursday and it was
I didn't hear the question.
the amount of taxes that we've collected so far. I forget the number, but it's in here.
We're at about 92%.
It's over 90%.
Yeah.
And we continue to get those pretty much daily.
Yeah, but we have received the bulk of it. Of course, December, January is the bulk of our property tax revenue. Any other questions, Mr. Greason? Ms. Ramos?
No.
Sure. All right, moving on. Item 6.2, the monthly police department report. Mr. Harrison.
In the police department, we had another month that I would just call typical. It's nothing that stood out from us. We've had some runaway children, which we seem to have every month, that run away multiple times and drive the numbers up. But we didn't have a rash of any burglaries. We didn't have a rash of thefts or anything like that.
Mr. McCown, anything? No, sir. Ms. Rollins?
No.
Mr. Greason?
I see only 3 animal controls. Have we have the dog problem that we had for a while starting to taper off, or?
I think it's better, maybe because people are calling in because I still see loose dogs, but we don't have that many calls. We're People put it on Facebook, but they really don't call us. We're next door.
Mr. Hoskins?
No.
And Mr. Bell?
I agree. It did look about like an average month.
We always have those, don't we?
Nothing, yeah, nothing outstanding here is.
All right, moving on, I keep going. Racial profiling report. I don't have that on the screen, but you have it in your packet.
So the racial profiling report is required for the police department to give to the city council every month. I try to do it early on. I hate for it to drag out. Ours is not very difficult because we're small, but we don't have software like most agencies do. So we do it by hand. Every time an officer writes a citation, he's got an extra piece of paper he fills out to track that stop, and it's on any traffic stop, no matter what it's for. So if you look at your racial profiling report, it indicates 744 traffic stops, and it breaks them down. It's pretty self-explanatory. The legislation does not require me to stand up here and read it to you, so I'm not going to do so. You've had it. You've had a chance to look at it. If there's anything that jumps out at you, I'll be happy to answer that question. What we're looking
If
for.
anybody wants to see it, it is on the city website, so.
But what we're looking for here is we're looking for anything that catches our attention that looks like that an officer may, or that we may be profiling as a department. And if you look at that, it's just not happening.
I'll just read this real quick so that people, the location of stop, that's kind of important to us. So on one of the city streets, 35%. On the State Highway 146, 20%. On Shoreacres Boulevard, County Road, or Sunrise is also a county road, 46%. So that's where the stops are happening, mostly on Shoreacres Boulevard and sometimes on Sunrise. So, and Fairfield would probably be the main city street. Go ahead, Mr. Harris.
So this is a report. There's two components to it. You have the, and by the way, every police department that makes traffic stops is required to do this. There are some exemptions for maybe some school districts or places that don't make traffic stops, but most departments or most agencies are required to do it. There's also behind that is a racial profiling analysis report, which just takes the information that we've compiled on the front and it does its own accounting for you to put it in percentages so that you can understand it. And I've done this 10 years now, I guess, in the city, and the numbers are always similar. When you look at percentages, they're almost always the same. They change very little. The one thing that is ironic is when you look at the whether the nationality was known prior to the stop, it's almost never known before the traffic stop. You go out there right now, you can't tell who's driving a car that's speeding. And I think that gets misconstrued sometimes because it's really difficult to see who's in a vehicle when you stop it, even in the daytime.
Mr. Harrison, on these, number of stops, 744, is that about an average for, month or so?
Well, that's for the year.
This is for the year.
That's for the year. Now, there may be several citations written from every traffic stop. The ones I brought over today, several of them had speeding, no driver's license, and maybe a headlight out or tail lamp out or something like that. So every stop can result in multiple citations.
Okay. And the software that other departments have, is that something that would help? Be beneficial for our department?
It would help tremendously, but we don't have the money for it. It's not one component, it's numerous components. And it's tens and tens of thousands of dollars to do it.
And it actually takes more time. So we also don't have the manpower. We've looked at it several times in the past. Mr. Hoskins, anything? Mr. Bell?
No, sir.
Mr. McCown?
Well, I was glad to see, to show how safe our little city is, we only had 2 arrests for the whole year. So that's outstanding. And on our traffic citations, we wrote 520. So they're out there working. It's just that we have a quiet community, and I just hope it stays that way because until we have something closer settled on the border, we always could be in danger here. It's just a matter of time till they get here.
Ms. Rollins?
I'm good, thank you.
Now, following up on Mr. McCown, I'll read a couple of things off of here because they're interesting. Of that 720, 30% were either a verbal or written warning, and 70% were the citations, 520 citations. Now, as to who is doing this, 32% were female and 68% were male. Take that for what you want. Learn to drive, guys. All right.
Our resident.
You have anything else, Mr. Harrison?
I would just like to remind everybody that Chief Dietrich from the LaPorte Police Department was killed last month. And he was a strong supporter of our department. He reached out to us. In fact, Sergeant Tidwell and I are going to the LaPorte Supervisors Retreat tomorrow at San Jacinto College at Doug's invitation several months ago. So we will miss Chief Dietrich in the months and years to come.
Yeah, we will. He had a very nice funeral service. All right, moving on. Item 6.3, the monthly public department. Public Works, Mr. Harris.
We had kind of a rough month in Public Works that normally most of our issues are caused by our own faulty infrastructure with old sewer or old water, which when Mr. Lackey talks to you in a few minutes, we've obviously upgraded that a lot. But we had we had a couple of issues this month with CenterPoint drilling through our lines. We had two instances where they broke them. One instance on a sewer and one instance on a water where they just didn't get it marked. And they broke a water line and a sewer line. The sewer line was up in the 1100 block of North Country Club, pretty close over to West Country Club. And it's expensive to repair, so we're going to be going after the subcontractor, trying to get them to pay. I haven't got the invoice yet, but it will be expensive because there was concrete. Other than that, we've changed some meters around. We still continue to put meters in new houses that are going up. And any questions you have on anything else on here, I'll try to answer it.
Mr. Bell?
No, sir, I can't.
Mr. Hoskins? No. Mr. Greason?
Are we prepared to talk about how far along we are with replacing all the water lines and?
That's why Mr. Lackey's here tonight.
Okay, good. I'll save questions.
Thank you.
Ms. Rollins?
I'm good, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem McCown?
I'm good, sir.
All
I
right.
could just mention that I have been in contact with Bayway Homes. And I've talked with them and they are telling us that this will be the year that they start building out. So that's kind of exciting too. I'm sorry, not Miramar. Sorry, guys.
There's no more room.
No, this will be on Fairfield, in the 500 block of Fairfield.
Is that 11 house?
All right.
13.
Moving on, item 7.0 business. Item 7.1 minutes from the January 8, 2024 meeting. Do I have a motion to consider?
I'll motion.
A motion from Ms. Ramos. Do I have a second?
Second. I'll second.
Second from Mr. Hoskins. Any questions? Mr. Greason, was your name spelled correct?
Yes, it was.
Awesome.
We're gonna live this down.
Anything else? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the minutes are approved unanimously. Moving on, item 7.2. Interlocal agreement with Port ISD. Do I have a motion to consider?
Motion.
I have a motion from Mr. McCown. Do I have a second?
I'll
I
second.
have a second from Ms. Ramos. This is our annual election agreement with LaPorte ISD. All it does is enters between us. It kind of establishes who's paying for it, who does what, and the percentage of cost. You have the full agreement in front of you. This is the summary of it on the board. Any questions? Tim McCown?
No, sir.
Ms. Ramos?
No.
Mr. Grease?
The same thing we did before.
Yes, sir. Mr. Hoskins?
No questions.
Mr. Bell?
No, sir.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the interlocal agreement passes unanimously. Moving on, item 7.3, overview of water and infrastructure improvement process. Do I have a motion for discussion?
Please discuss.
Have a motion from Mr. Hoskins. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second from Mayor Pro Tem McCown. Mr. Harrison, Mr. Lackey, you're up. On the board, you'll see Water improvement. We started this we started in 2017 consideration. We passed a resolution in February of 2018, authorizing 3.1 million. After a few months of discussion, we needed 9. After a few months discussion, we moved it up to 4.5, and that was passed on May 14th, 2018. So we got going in September or so of that year with meters first. And so Mr. Lackey, take it away.
All right. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kerry Lackey. I'm with Cobb Finley Engineering. And I've been working with the city on infrastructure projects that need engineering design and those sorts of things. So primarily with water development board projects. And so thank you for pulling that up. During the 2018 process with Water Development Board, we identified 6 projects to do throughout the city. And those projects were based on some things that we did engineering wise for the water and sewer. So here for the sanitary sewer system, we worked closely with Public Works to identify where there were sinkholes throughout the city and where we were finding leaks from just water coming into the system, which of course inundated our lift stations and things of that nature. And so as part of the wastewater projects, we ended up doing 2 pretty major projects. The first one is more towards the left of the city. And this map here is all the projects that were done, but that initial project, which started at what we call Lift Station 1, which is actually located on the western side of 1.6. That sewer system is a little bit bigger sewer where everything for the entire city flows through. There were some issues with that line, and we were able to actually do that project first because there was a lot of issues with the sewer system. So you can see along Shoreacres Boulevard, majority of that has all been replaced now through that project and some of the others. So we've used a couple of different techniques like cure in place pipe and pipe bursting and things of that nature. But that's reduced the amount of inflow into the system. So part of the engineering work that was done, if you guys remember, if you were here, back then, we did some smoke testing. And so the smoke testing identified where a lot of those leaks were, and this is where the major leaks were. So based on the money allocated, we did 2 projects. The emergency repair project, which was the first one, was about 6,252 linear feet of pipe. And the second rehabilitation was 8,450 feet of pipe. And one of the primary goals with that second project was there's only one real area where the sanitary sewers in people's backyards that would greatly affect them personally. And that has all been rehabbed as well. So, and then part of the project is getting ready for those homes there on Fairfield. So on the sewer system, does anybody have any questions as far as that goes?
Are we still getting inundated by water, especially when it rains in both of the lift stations?
Yes.
2 and 3?
Yes. I couldn't quantify it for you, but I know that that's happening.
And it's just coming from the old pipe it's in, or?
It comes from a lot of different things, but a lot of it from our study is actually on the private side that we are not able to fix until. So we fixed the part that's on the public side. The second part of it is the manholes themselves. They have a tendency to leak, and we haven't been able to address that yet. So. That's kind
Are
of,
the manholes brick or are they, is that the reason they leak?
we have pretty much all kinds of manholes, but yeah, brick, and then some are some older manholes that have just settled with the soil and caused some leaking.
Okay.
Mr. Bell, anything?
No, sir.
Mr. Possible? Good. Mr. McCown?
No, sir.
All right,
You got the.
now it's time for water.
So for the water system, many different things that went on with the water system. We did end up having 4 projects for that. And I'll go through each of those. So here is a map. Sorry if you can't see it, but the ones in dark blue are the ones that were part of the Water Development Board project. The ones in light blue were a project that was recently done with another set of funds that we had. And so one of the priority projects at the beginning. Oh, sorry. So just to give you some background, again, the city was able to do a water model of the entire city and determine, based on our 2 water plants that we have, where there were deficiencies in pressure, and then also deficiencies in just spacing of fire hydrants and things of that nature. And so there was definitely areas that whenever we went out to like open fire hydrants and things of that nature, we weren't seeing what we should have. And that was to improve this. And so you can see these were the areas that were selected based on maintenance, but also engineering wise, a lot of the water system has to be in a loop type system. And if you can imagine, you have an 8-inch water line that may go to a 6-inch, that may go to a 3-inch. And some of those were leaking quite a bit. And so this was to repair those types of things. So going through the projects, one of the first projects we started on is the smart meters project. And if everybody remembers, a little bit before COVID, every single water meter in the city was replaced. And this allowed for more accurate reading of your water bill, but also the ability to go on an app or online so that you can monitor your own, if maybe something's leaking in your house, you can set that up to be notified pretty quickly. And that way you can call a plumber to repair things of that nature. But also our system is cellular, and it was taking the Public Works Department a large amount of time to go open up and read every single one. These get read like every hour, like pretty much instantly. And so the smart meter project was very important. The second project that we worked on was at water plant number 2, which is the one to the far west in the corner where we get water from LaPorte. And so you guys know there's a water tower there, and it's tall, and it was coming to the end of its lifespan. We do have some cellular equipment up there, and so it was thought, well, we'll leave the tower there for the cellular equipment, but we'll go ahead and do some repairs to it so that we can continue to do that. But that tower is not full of water anymore. We have a pressure system, a pressure vessel that was put on that site to help with the water pressure problems that we were having prior to these projects going on. And then also just to give credit to Public Works, they worked through a lot of the system and valves to make sure that not only that project but other things increased reliability within the system. So the next project on there was we actually started the new water transmission main that comes from LaPorte. And that goes to water plant 1. So engineering wise, water plant one, it was fed off of our distribution system instead of getting water directly from LaPorte. And so that project is to replace that. And that project's still ongoing. The next project is the one we just did recently, which is to replace a majority of the lines that you see in dark blue. So we did have, again, a lot of lines that were leaking pretty much all the time, and also were very much undersized. And so these lines were identified again by water model to help not just these streets, but it kind of feeds out from there to all the different houses and things of that nature. And so within the budget we had a contractor come out and do that work. And so yeah, that's the overview of all the projects. So for Water Development Board.
Do we know?
Okay, Mr. Greason? Go ahead.
Do we know what percent of the old lines we've replaced at this point?
Troy?
I don't know the exact percentage, no. I would say that it's probably in the 20% range, you know.
So we've still got a lot of old pipe still in.
Yes.
Have we identified the type of pipe we've got in those old areas?
So the city did not have those types of records. All they had was some very remedial sketches of where water lines are. To Troy's point earlier, when the gas company comes and drills, if it's a new project, we know where it's at. But other than that, it could be off 5 feet from where our maps are at, things of that nature. So a lot of times you guys know where the facilities are better than we do. But as I go out to do repairs, we do write those things down.
To that point, Paul, one of the things Troy has done is create a new overlay map of lines and stuff. So Troy, you can talk about that.
And we've just taken what we had from the old maps to what Cobb Finley's provided us. And we've got some pretty substantial maps today compared to what we had 5 years ago. We've also, David Sutton and his crew, a lot of the valves and things like that, as we find them, they're GPS, they're marked at GPS, so we can go back because they get grown over. And we've tried to paint them blue, especially with the new project. The new ones are the protection, the pipe that protects the valves are dark blue, so they stick out. And we're trying to mark and identify those other ones, not just with GPS, but by painting them. So we see them, so we don't hit them with tractors or lawnmowers or work crews don't, or at least can find them.
We've got that information scanned so we can maintain that record.
We've got it digitally.
Okay.
And we've all,
Yeah, that's kind of the move. We kind of were able to move more digitally, like these maps are made digitally now. We can, yeah.
And Gary, you didn't mention the fire hydrants that we've added.
Oh, yeah. I don't have the number on here. Water transmission pipeline was about 3,360 feet. Smart meters, we replaced 750 residential meters and a couple of commercial. As y'all know, we only have a couple commercial in the city. The water distribution was 14,575 linear feet of water line. So, and then as far as fire hydrants, probably 24 extra fire hydrants in the city than we've had before. So, and those are required by TCEQ.
And then when they did the fire hydrants, remember, they also put in larger supply lines for pressure flow so that we meet all the state standards.
Yeah, and one of the other really important things, and Troy has hit on it briefly, is just there's a lot more valves now to isolate. So instead of like shutting off 3 blocks or something like that, now we can more shut off just a couple houses. That's very, very important.
We did some of that on the fly. As pipe was exposed and it was already exposed, we would drop a valve even if it wasn't in the plans because it was cheap for the most part. And then it allowed us, so when we had to do water cutoffs, you'll notice now we affect very few homes when we do that. Whereas before, sometimes we affected the whole city.
The whole city, yeah.
Or the whole, Half of the city.
or half of it, yes, sir.
Okay, fire hydrants, we've added some more.
Yes,
Do we need to add some more?
yes. A lot more.
A lot more?
Yes.
We have to have lines to support it.
Yeah, so we can't put like there's a lot of 6-inch lines out there. We can't really go put a 6-inch fire hydrant lead. TCQ doesn't like that. They want to make sure that you maintain your residential service. But Public Works can add them, but you're not going to be able to fight a fire with it. You want to make sure and have a line that you can fight a fire with. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no need to add them unless they're usable.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. McCown?
I'm good.
Ms. Ramos?
So with the transmission line, what are we missing for that to be complete? Is it still that panel?
Yeah, it's still the communication between really 3 parts that are out there. These guys have dug in pretty deep into. We have constructed everything the way that almost every other water plant is constructed. But for some reason, we basically are calling it a ghost because we're trying to find that thing. There's a way to eliminate it, but we have to change the actual plan. So we're in discussion about that right now. But yeah, the line's in place. We can receive water. We can't meter it accurately. The accuracy is too far off for acceptance right now, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Do we have the same metering facility that is on the other end?
Yeah, it's the same meter system.
Meter system?
Yeah.
You can't get it.
The communication for some reason is, we've been trying to figure out for some time now. Yeah, the project got delayed initially because electronic parts during COVID, especially for this type of thing, were very, very long lead time, like 8 months and those types of things. Then when they got in, they weren't reading accurately. And some of those have been sent back to factories and tested and all those things passed, but we're still trying to get that accuracy to where we can accept it.
Thank you. All right. Anything else, Scott? All right, moving on. Thank you, Carrie. Item 7.4. Consideration of repaving 100 and 200 blocks of Baywood Street and 100 and 600 blocks of Fairfield Avenue. Do I have a motion for consideration? I have a motion from Mr. Hoskin. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Greason. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. All right. We do finally have proposals for resurfacing 2 of our streets, which we have determined in the past are our worst ones. What you'll see here today, and what you saw earlier was how much cash we have from the sales tax, 310,000, I think it was, for street repairs. So the 100 and 200 block of Baywood, that's the portion from Sunrise to Miramar. And the 100 to 600 block of Fairfield is from Broadway, Old 146 to Miramar. Now you have 2 different proposals, one with a clean out the 6-inch base and add a 2-inch overlay on top, and one with an 8-inch base and add a 2-inch overlay on the top. And you can see we had them $22,000 difference. And on Fairfield, you're looking at $30,000 difference on that. So what you need to consider tonight is how you want to approach this. First decision you need to make is on the base level for the street, and Mr. Harrison can talk to you about that, or I can, either one. And the second consideration is, do you want to do both streets? If you do, then we will obviously need to take some money out of reserves to do that. So that'll require some budget work. So that's your job tonight. Try to figure this out, what you want to do. But we do have these guys are with the Gulf Coast, whatever it's called. What is it called?
GC.
Galveston County
Yeah.
whatever it's called. Anyway, they're legit, they're legal, and it's all bid out correctly, so. So I'm gonna start with you, Mr. McCown, and let you take over and see what you think.
Well, my first-
Unless you want to ask Troy about the base difference or whatever.
You want to go into that so everyone will,
Sure. So initially, when they came out, they gave us a quote for removing 6 inches. They were a little bit concerned because of the shape of Baywood and Fairfield, that maybe they would find more damage underneath than what they think of. So after the mayor and I spoke, we got back with them, asked them to provide us a second quote that would go down 8 inches, just to try to capture more of the repairs that would have to be made. So that is strictly the difference in how far down we're going. I think Baywood, I think we're going to find some issues when we start tearing stuff out. That's going to have to be repaired, point repairs. So that's basically the difference in the two prices. And on the Baywood job, it goes all the way to Miramar. So it takes the curve at the yacht club all the way to Miramar.
What's the addresses on Fairfield again?
Fairfield is 100 to 600. So it'd go from the water to South Broadway.
Mr. Harrison, didn't you just say that they were gonna get started on doing those houses over on Fairfield?
Yes, sir.
So they're gonna essentially tear it up.
But are they willing to cover some of the costs?
Haven't asked them. But I
Okay, just offhand, and I'm just saying that I would recommend that we consider doing Baywood project completely and get it done and let Fairfield, and then see if we can coordinate maybe them paying for some of it. And we need to patch a couple places on Fairfield to at least make it usable. But maybe not go ahead and pave it all like we're talking about here. And I would say on the Baywoods, that we would go with an 8-inch base on it. Because the base is, we still putting 2 inches of asphalt on the. And usually you get leaks in the asphalt and you destroy the base pretty quick. You don't patch it.
Mr. McCown?
I definitely feel like Baywood should be done and hold off on Fairfield because of all the cement trucks that'll be going up and down after we build it and spend $300,000 6 or 7 months from now. We're doing the same thing again. On Baywood, the yacht club is in the process of getting 4 or 5 of their lots. Can't remember. I think it's 5 maybe. Rezoned for residential out of commercial. So there are going to be concrete trucks on that too, but there's only going to be like for 5 houses unless someone buys 2 lots, and then it could be 3 houses. But if we do the Baywood instead of going for Fairfield, then we also don't go into our reserves. I'm not interested in going to our reserve money right now. We've worked hard to get it where it is right now, and I'd like to just kind of baby it. And since we don't know what's underneath Baywood, and there could be Pandora's box once we get in there.
Yeah. I agree with that. That gives us some money in reserve to do something, make sure that we've got a good surface on Baywood.
Ms. Rollins?
Isn't that street also one of like the original streets that could also be shell based?
I'm not sure about that.
Open the question.
Is that street like one of the original streets that was like shell based, like where it was that crushed, like shell?
Yeah, I remember those.
Carrie,
I don't remember that was one of them.
Okay,
So when we were doing sewer repairs and we dug that, it is shell based.
okay. So I am wanting to do the 8-inch.
Anything else?
No.
Mr. Hoskins?
I'm gonna concur with Jerome, Mr. McCown on the suggestion. We've got this 319,000 sitting there, and we can only use it for road repair. And prices are going up, and I think we should go ahead and spend it and do it properly. And I agree with the 8-inch as well. And and do Baywood first. Because, you know, if we did repair Fairfield, there are two things. Yeah, they could destroy it with truck, but then they're gonna want speed bumps. You know? I have a hard time with that one.
Yeah,
You know, we give them a speed where you could do 60 miles an hour on it, and they wanna slow it down.
Mr. Harrison, we're gonna need to block off Haywood.
It'll be done in halves. So there will be a lane maintained, yes, sir, with flagmen. And one lane will stay open. But that's what they've told me for the entirety of the project, that's how they'll do it. And this isn't sir,
that's how we've done them all.
yeah, and this is not a months-long project. It should go pretty
quick once they deploy. You see the deployment, the only thing that you're gonna save by doing them both at one time is 4,500.
Yeah.
On the deployment fees. Mr. Bell?
Well, I was down there just the other day on Haywood. They've already got the lots marked off. I think is it 4 or 5? I thought it was 4. I heard 4.
There's a lot of work they have to do before that, though.
Yeah, but is there a start date for that project?
No, it's not even zoned for that. There's a lot of hoops they have to go through. And Troy's helping them get through them. We want them to build there. It's just some things they have to do.
I do have one more question about Haywood in particular. Is there gonna be any sewer or water type stuff that might be involved on that particular street? So we're not putting brand new road out there and then having to dig holes into it?
Well, the sewer is where the sewer is going to be. We don't have the money to move the sewer. I wish we could move all the sewers out of the middle of the road. But what we'll do is we'll look at points anywhere where we have issues, and we'll make point repairs. And, you know, we'll do the best we can to make sure that doesn't happen.
Go in favor of it.
Mr. Bell, anything? Anything else, Mr. Bell?
No, I can't think of anything. I agree with the Hoskins. I'd probably go with Baywood first.
Anything else, Mr. Hoskins?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Mr. Greason? Anything else? Ms. Ramos, anything else? Mr. McCown?
Well, I think that Baywood should also be done because we have the Houston Yacht Club in our city. And when people come to visit the yacht club, our members that are there now, I think it would enhance them pulling some of those sailboats down the street also and having a chance of having a wreck.
Okay. Mr. Hoskins, can you form a motion for me?
Sure. We take a look at this real quick. We're gonna do the 8-inch, right? Yeah. Okay, so I moved that we approve funding through the use of the road repair taxes collected and tax pool out of our 2024 restricted funds. In the amount of 96, in the amount of $218,175. $218,175 to pay for and repair the Baywood Street and basically approve the Baywood Street Priority Project listed in the proposal from Ford Construction Company dated 2 February 2024.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. McCown. So I have a motion from Mr. Hoskins to approve an 8-inch base repaving of Fairfield. No, see, you didn't. I'm just making sure you're paying attention. To approve the repaving of the 100 and 200 blocks of Baywood Street at the 8-inch depth. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that is approved unanimously. Mr. Harrison can get started on that tomorrow. Very nice. All right, last thing on the agenda, I think, well, second to last anyway, is a Seth grant application. Do I have a motion to consider?
A motion.
I have a motion from Ms. Ramos to consider. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Mr. McCown. I have asked Mr. Greason to take the point on this. Basically, what the resident is asking is to replace a 12 by 14 deteriorated deck at the front of the entrance. They only submitted one quote, which is why I asked Mr. Greason to take the point on that. We like to have more than one quote, and she did not provide one. So there was one quote, and the cost per square foot came out to $32.80. And here are some pictures of the actual deck. That's the existing deck. Okay, Mr. Greason, have you had a chance to look, and let me just say one thing, this is, this particular resident is, age 71, so that falls into the 5% deductible. And if you look in your packet, there's the remainder. We don't have enough money left to fund this. I mean, we're short $90, whatever. But anyway, I asked Mr. Greason to take the lead on this, Paul?
I had looked at what they're outlining here with the what they wanted, and looking at prices on the internet, they range between $28 to $40 per square foot. Looking at what they have, you know, if you look at the average of the 28 to 40, it's about $34 a square foot. So they're running about $32 per square foot. So it's not completely out of line there. The only thing that bothers me is I looked at the pictures and it looks like if you go to the next one, that one, if you look down in the far left-hand corner, that's the porch. If you look at the porch, it's as bad a shape as the deck nearly. So I also tried to look up this Marshall's general contracting and remodeling, and they're not listed anywhere on Better Business or anywhere else, but our responsibility doesn't cover the you know, what the contractors are so forth. So the price is not out of the range. We have how much left in there? 52.
We have 5143.25, and after the deductible, this project will be 5234.50. So you're short $91.25.
And that's including the percentage they pay.
Yes.
Okay. I think what we need to do is go ahead and approach them that we can only cover the 5143, and they have to take up the balance. So if we're not going to go into debt for that amount. So that's all we'll pay.
That's up to y'all. Mr. McCown?
I'm also in approval from looking at pictures and the person being over 70. I hate for them to have a broken hip, so I say yes.
But we award it to the maximum of our set funds, right?
Ms. Ramos, anything?
I would like to see the condition of the front porch. And maybe if the front porch needs to be redone and not so much deck space. Because based on like my view of this, you know, where's the picture that has the. No, they have a picture where it shows like their seating arrangements, and it, to me, doesn't look like it's, you know, really used.
No?
Mhm.
Well, I did go by out there today and to drive by and look at it. The guy that was sitting up there at the table using that little portion that's still available. But he wasn't 70, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So he can jump around on that thing, but
Yeah. So Ms. Ramos, your approach would be to not approve it tonight, go back to the applicant and tell them your concerns and see if they want to change their application. basically,
Yes.
in a nutshell. Okay, Mr. Hoskins?
I tend to agree with her, but I do take it a step further because this is gonna have to all be inspected by our city inspector as well.
Yeah.
Which means what happens if we do the porch and the whole project fails because of what's inside the patio? Then we're gonna have a bigger problem.
Yeah, they have to have a permit before we release any money. That's true.
Exactly. So there has to be that permit. So before we, I wonder if there's a way we can't find out ahead of time, you know, what all those costs, if that's gonna be required.
Okay.
I'd like to look at the porch as well.
Mr. Bell, any thoughts?
Well, I agree with Mr. Ramos. I think we need to take another look at it and see if there's another way we can work this. I'm all for the project. I pass by there every day and it's time. It's time for.
Well, y'all have a dilemma in front of you. Looks like you got three people wanting to hold on. Hold off, pause, and try to get another one. Paul and Jerome seem.
I don't mind holding off either.
That's why I pointed out to you that the porch is as bad as the deck.
Okay, well, now we need one of you guys to take the lead in actually approaching the applicant and doing this. Who volunteers?
You will go down there.
I'll volunteer Paul.
Paul knows this person.
Paul or Wes? Wes is very outgoing.
Wes, you and I want to go down.
I've never met the woman.
Yeah, you have. She's been to the last couple of council meetings.
Oh, was that her?
Yeah,
She was here last week.
yeah. I'll do it if y'all don't want to. I ain't scared. What do y'all want to do?
Porch. It don't matter. You want me to go with you?
All right, me and Paul will go down there and we'll talk to her. We'll see if we can figure something out. So I need we don't need a motion. Yeah, let's have a motion to table this. Ron,
Okay, I moved to table this discussion.
do we need it?
I don't, not really.
Yeah, I don't think
No,
so.
because we didn't have a motion to do anything.
Yeah, let's just move on.
All right.
All right, item 7.6. Consideration of a second regular meeting. Do we need a second regular meeting this month, Ms. Goodman? Mr. Harrison?
No, sir.
Council?
No.
Y'all want to make a motion to have a second meeting?
No.
The item dies for lack of a motion. Moving on to item 8, adjournment. All those in favor of, I need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I need a second.
Second.
I got a motion from Mr. Hoskins, a second from Mr. Grayson. All those in favor of adjourning? Done. And we are adjourned as of 7:19 PM. Thank you. Thank you guys for coming out.